Welcome to the Daily Influence, where our mission is to deliver a daily dose of positive influence that can uplift you personally or be shared within your sphere of influence. While not every episode may directly apply to your unique circumstances, we strive to provide insights and inspiration relevant to most people's daily, weekly, and monthly lives. Whether you are tuning in during the morning, noon, or night, the Daily Influence is here for you. Listen, share, and embrace the power of influence in your life.
Welcome to Daily Influence. I'm Gregg Koleno, your host. Thank you for making us a part of your routine. In this podcast, we explore the stories of amazing individuals who spread positivity and make a difference. Join us as we uncover the inspiration, challenges, and impact of their journeys. Today, we have Melissa Wallace joining us from the Fierce Foundry. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Melissa, can you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
Of course. So I am a marketer by trade. I've spent most of my career, and I still am, spending it in marketing, consumer marketing, entertainment marketing, and tech marketing. I had the opportunity to go work at a couple tech startups, sort of mid-career, which sort of repositioned me. In fact, I ended up starting my own marketing agency in 2018, dedicated to early stage tech startups, which then led me to launch a nonprofit called Fierce Founders, which was a mentoring community for female founders, which then led to the formation of Fierce Foundry last year. We're not even a year in, which is the first Femtech venture studio for female founders. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about how we got there, but positivity is a very strong reason why we needed to build this company. I'm someone who believes in the power of positivity, and I recognize that we can have an impact through our own positivity, and that's what we're doing there.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to jump in because your organization provides an amazing service, and we're going to learn more about this and how you did it. So let's just jump right in. Melissa, how do you believe acts of kindness, mentorship, or leadership can contribute to creating a more positive and supportive community or workplace environment?
I think I'll start with leadership, mainly because in my experience, I've had positive leadership and negative leadership. And I know how that affected me personally. In fact, that is really what inspired me to think differently in my own leadership. It really comes down to this idea that when you're in a supportive environment, you perform better, right? And if you're in a supportive environment, it naturally creates community. These are just, it seems very basic and straight to the point, but when you actually remove negativity, so there's an opportunity to be positive, but when you actually remove negativity, it's even more powerful because then people start to be more transparent and open, and great things can come from that. And for me, because I'm very focused in, ways to impact the lives of female entrepreneurs, I think that, there's a lot of very specific ways that we need to support each other that we've seen in, recent years be incredibly powerful. But even if you're a leader in general, I think that there are ways, and this can be through mentorship as well. But when I think about my leadership and how I can have a positive effect on those within my organizations, it's all about sort of the what and let the how and set the goal. Let there be sort of very clear ideas around what needs to happen and the expectations of what the end result will be. But let people do things their own way and have open communication, positive open communication about what that how is, and allow individuals to come to you and say, this is how I'm doing it. This is where I am so far. And provide, very open and I think honesty and openness is such a huge part of it.
That is amazing advice. And I think that's some advice that a lot of younger leaders need to learn. That giving your teams the freedom to have their voice and figure things out, and so that they can grow and blossom and help us all grow as a team. And I also love what you said about, getting rid of the negativity. Something that I've talked about before on this podcast, and many of you listeners have heard me say this, is many years ago I used to be a negative person, and I did a lot of work on myself to shed that within myself, but also along the way as I shed all the negativity around me. And my life literally did a 180 when I did all of that. So you are spot on when you say we have to remove that negativity from our lives. We have to start with ourselves and then those around us.
That can be sometimes as simple as, one of the rules that we have is we don't speak negatively about each other. If you have an issue or something that needs to be resolved, it can be done in the proper way. But when people gather around and, it creates so much more negativity that just, results are going to suffer as a result of that. Right.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's a rule that I live by as well. And I actually learned from Mel Robbins. She's an amazing podcast host, amazing human, that her trick, which I have taken upon myself, is that if I'm in a group of individuals and someone starts talking, or one-on-one, and someone starts talking negatively about someone, I literally stop them in their tracks and I tell them, that person is not here, so we do not talk about them in a negative way, and just end it right there.
Yeah. And I think, that going back to even letting people lead their own path and how they get to their goals is really important also, because people need to make mistakes. And I was always the person of absolutely I can't make a mistake, has to be perfect all the time. And I think that made me even more, anxious and all of that. But when I was in an environment where it was accepted and it was open to oh, okay, well, that's what happened. And here's some ideas on how to do it differently. But whatever you do, just learn. You have to learn from mistakes in order to be better, whether it's within the project yourself, et cetera.
100%. I think mistakes, failures, they're all blessings, right? Because that's how we learn and grow as humans. And it's really important as a leader to let your team make the mistakes. I'm the same way as you. I used to get really upset or frustrated and want everything to go perfect. But if it goes perfect, you're not going to learn anything really from it. So we got to let others make mistakes so we can learn and grow. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to make a difference but may not know where to start?
Yeah, I think the first thing is awareness. That was really, again, how I was a negative person, but I think negative in the fact that I would beat myself up if I, wasn't doing well enough and more internally. But I experienced a really, really good boss and then a really, really terrible boss. And I just night and day, all of a sudden realizing how someone who wanted to punish me for, doing things wrong, things like calling you out in front of large groups of people, about a mistake that you had made, or sometimes completely irrelevant information, really took me down. Right. And so I became really aware of the little things that this particular boss was doing, writing them down, being aware of how it made me feel, and made a promise to myself that I would never treat someone else that way. Because coming from such a positive environment prior to that, it just was it took me down. I really changed who I was in the performance of my work. And so now, I tell people, be aware, write it down. And then, in some cases, if you think you're being truly positive with, someone in a particular situation, you might want to just double check with them. Yeah, as well, because everybody is different. Everybody receives information in different ways. And I think, if, again, be aware of what's happening to you, be aware of how, you're impacting others. I think that's number one for sure.
I agree 100%. I feel like our lives paths have had like so many parallels. I was in the same situation, and we learned from that. We took from the managers that we had that were positive and those that weren't positive, and we formed who we are as leaders. And I think that's really important for our listeners to take that advice and really think about what type of leader you want to be, and the leaders that you've had, and take the things that help lift you up and grow you and help you expand as a human. So very good advice. Thanks for sharing that. Melissa, can you share any specific strategies or initiatives that you've implemented to promote positivity, make a lasting impact in your personal or professional circles?
Yes. So personally, really two things. First and foremost, I meditate. I do breath work and meditation every morning. And people think, I'm crazy because I'll do anywhere from 20 minutes to 40, 50 minutes a day, very early in the morning. That gives me time to think about how I want my day to be and how I'm going to ensure that I'm treating others with respect and love, and creating that sort of natural vibration of positivity, which creates such a ripple effect. I don't know if you've ever really experienced that, everybody who's listening, but when you do experience how it can affect one person and then that person positively affects someone else, it's really such a beautiful thing. And so, I started meditating really for my own personal mental health, but I realized this amazing positive effect that it has. So for me, that's an initiative that it's like brushing my teeth. I've got to do it every day. And I also think that networking, it sounds really strange that I would say networking, but I believe that, your path or your journey can be so positively impacted by others that, every time I meet somebody new, and this happened when we first met too, right? There's a new idea or a new experience or a new sort of notch in the journey that takes you maybe to a different place. And being very open to hearing what other people are going through, and being, open to yourself on that journey, through networking and meeting more people, something I hated forever. Like I was just not, I would go to networking events and like stay in the corner, do what I needed to do and leave. And now I've found such value, not just, because you're meeting people and, building your network, but in that very specific idea of like somebody being able to change, your direction in your journey or your path. I think also, that's a little bit personal and professional, right? When I think about my organizations, so I have a marketing agency as well, right? And Fierce Foundry, we have a policy at all of them, which is about being honest and open. And I mentioned this earlier. You are welcome to share if something is going on in your life. And we promote that in a way so that we know, hey, you're going through something today. Don't worry about it. I got your back. That we can step in, help people, just make sure that everybody's in the right headspace. And if they're not, then supporting them any way that we can. I don't think in this day and age, I think we've actually learned so much about mental health and how it truly affects everyone. I mean, the second you open up about something you've been through, someone else is saying they have to. And so having this more open policy just brings us closer together. And I think that it inherently, gives us this positive community within each of our organizations.
I love that you built that for your organization. I'm sure all our listeners are like, oh my gosh, I want to go work for Melissa.
I will say I make every effort for anybody who works for me, if they ever leave, to always come back and say, I loved working with you and your team. And I have been, so far, that has, been, one of my missions in life. And we've been good at doing that. So
that's because you have a positive influence on them. So that's great.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, what message or words of encouragement would you like to share with our listeners who aspire to make a positive difference in the world?
Start now. I think that if you have an idea, if there's an organization or a way that you want to have impact, start now. I had been thinking about how we could have impact with a company like Fierce Foundry for so many years, and I didn't really believe in myself to execute on it because, there's a million reasons why you shouldn't start now. But think about starting immediately. And then my approach to everything, and my kids, I probably drive them crazy, is solutions, not problems. So the hardest thing in, starting something new is knowing that you don't know what you're doing. And you're going to face challenges over and over again. And if you sit down and you just put your head on the desk and say, this is the biggest problem ever, then you're just welcoming in all that negativity to, fill you up and not allow you to kind of get to the next stage. But if you instead say, okay, what are some solutions, and just immediately take the problem out of the equation, you can accomplish so much. And I think as a team too, oh man, that's the approach we have in meetings. It's like, no one's allowed to say, oh, we have a problem, or there's something went wrong here. It's no. It's like, okay, what are your solutions? How can we help you, solve for it instead? So start now and focus on solutions is the advice that I would give.
Really good advice. I love that. Solutions, not problems. That's amazing. And, one thing you mentioned was about in your brain. And if you tell your brain, like, I can't do this, or can't start now, or this is a problem, your brain believes what you tell it. So you have to change your vernacular. What comes out of your mouth is going to literally, and what you think is going to change the way your brain thinks and responds. So you have to change that.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to do. I use an example of changing your mindset when it comes to going to the gym, because I have the voice that's like, oh, you went yesterday. It's okay. You don't have to go. And I finally have gotten really good at saying, don't listen to that voice. Get out of here. Just go do your thing. You have to train yourself to be able to control what you're thinking, because it impacts everything.
Yeah. I used to have trouble sleeping, especially on Sunday nights. And I used to have to train my brain. And I literally would say I would talk to my thoughts. It would say, thought, there's nothing I could do about you right now. I am putting you aside. I will deal with you later. And over time, if I kept doing it, and now a thought does not come into my mind when I am trying to fall asleep, and I fall asleep instantly.
That's great. I'm going to use that, because I have learned to treat Sunday. It's not a Sunday. It's just a Friday.
Yeah.
It can be whatever day you want it to be. But that is huge. Just take that thought, put it away. There's nothing you can do about it right now. Yeah, that's great.
At the beginning, I had a notepad on my nightstand, and I would write it down so that I'm literally proving to my brain that, yeah, I'll deal with you later. But after a while, I didn't have to do that. And now they don't even
have it. You develop the perfect habit. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Great. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing all your advice and taking time out of your day to be here.
No, I love this podcast. I'm so happy to be here, and I hope everybody got a little bit something out of it.
I can speak for our audience. I know they got a lot out of it, Melissa. And if you want to get in touch with Melissa, we'll put her email address in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Daily Influence. We hope that you found today's episode inspiring. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and share it with your family, friends, and coworkers to help spread the positivity. We appreciate your support and looking forward to sharing more stories of positivity and impact with you. Thanks for being part of our community. Bye-bye.